Getting exciting. Great, the mic is working and we're online. It's the first time we're doing a hybrid event. So 3 years ago we started with the D2C conference in person, around 300 people attending. Last year, unfortunately, due to COVID, we had to do a digital event, but it was actually quite fun to see how that works, like a streaming event. And this year we were so unsure what was going to happen, we decided to do a hybrid event. Make an intimate event here in the office of Molly in the Founders Club. And of course, streaming to anyone who would like to join the event online. So it's the third year, the D2C Summit, and this year we're going to talk about data-driven e-commerce. But before we start, I would like to thank the team of Molly that were invited here to host the event in the Founders Club in their brand new office in Amsterdam. Of course, all the partners who collaborated with the event, like Klaviyo, SendCloud, Klarna, Shopify, Yotpo, making sure I don't forget anyone, Georgias, all the way from France. Louis, great to have you here. And furthermore, iForce, who's taking care of the live stream today, and of course the Ask Phill team, who has been working hard behind the scenes to make it all possible. And of course, everyone watching and attending today, thanks for joining. We have quite a packed agenda for today. We'll start with a keynote by Paul Martijn about e-commerce and data. And we're looking at the past, the present, and the future. After that, Gorgias will do a Q&A with the team of Fest, talking about consumer-centered e-commerce. Then we'll have a small break, so you can get a coffee, have a small walk to refresh for the second part of the afternoon. Then we have Klarna, who invited Cabau Lifestyle, also for a Q&A. And then we have Molly, who invited Veloretti to talk about how they've been growing the last couple of years. And we'll finalize the day with a panel discussion with SendCloud, Klaviyo, and Yotpo. And we will be talking about how these tools help global brands to sell globally in a more efficient way. I'm excited, Paul. What about you?
I'm fucking excited as well, man.
That sounds good. Before we start, I want to do a quick introduction about Ask Phill for the people who don't know us yet. We're an e-commerce agency and we build scalable data-driven e-commerce. And Paul Martijn founded Ask Phill around 5 years ago in 2016. Currently, our team consists of around 50 digital natives with a big passion for e-commerce. We're a Shopify Plus agency, and we're one of the leading headless e-commerce agencies in Europe. And we help brands globally from the fashion, lifestyle, and beauty industries to build their platform and optimize their platform. So we do strategy, design, development, data analytics, and growth. But we don't do it alone. It's with the whole team, all from our headquarters in Amsterdam. And we say we build the next. So we try together with our clients to push the boundaries of e-commerce and define the future together. And this is a small summary of some of our clients we work with, from local heroes to really global players. We help them to build scalable data-driven e-commerce. So that was the intro. We're ready for the first keynote. I'm really excited. Paul and me have been discussing this morning, and we're ready to go. So that's good. We're gonna talk about e-commerce and data, and we'll look at the past, the present, and the future. And I think one of the reasons we picked this theme for the whole summit was that we found out that a lot of brands are data informed and not data-driven. We even found it out in our own company. We were data-informed as well, and we think that if you want to be able to have a competitive edge compared to your competitors, you should become data-driven, and that's where our journey started. So before we're going to look at the exciting future of data analytics and being data-driven and building algorithms on top of your data, we'll look at how in the worst case your data pipeline can currently look like. And but before we start, I would like to know if there's someone here in the room who can say, like, we're fully data-driven. And that was what I was thinking or expecting. But if I ask a question like, who wants to become data-driven? I think there are more people saying they want to become data-driven, and that's also what we thought. So that's why we're going to talk about it today. So usually when you work in an e-commerce department, you have a lot of questions coming to you all the day from, especially when you're an e-commerce company. And one of the usual questions is, what's the conversion rate? As an e-commerce manager, you would pull up Shopify or Magento and look at the numbers there. Probably your online marketing department would look at Google Analytics, and I could tell you the numbers will be different in both systems. So we already have a first question with the most simple metric there is on your platform. Yeah, and then someone from the management team would like to know, what's our marketing spend and where do we spend it? Probably you have to pull up Google AdWords, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, email marketing, offline marketing, and you need to combine those sources. So extract the data first, then transform it to one uniform data file which you can work with, and then visualize it. And then probably the worst question you can get is, what is our total net revenue? Probably from one of the owners or the management team, and this will really give you a lot of work because you need to combine even more data sources. You need to be sure the data quality is high enough. You cannot make mistakes. And it will include a lot of spreadsheet work, trying to ensure you get a right data view of your company. So if we simplify it, this is how the challenge looks like. On the left, you have a couple of data sources. This can be any data source. We think as being data-driven, you should include as much data as you have. So this does not only include your online marketing spend, but it includes all your e-commerce data, but also your return data, in some cases IoT data, some cases offline store data. But in most cases, the data collection happens partly manually. So this is like, in the worst case, you do it all manually. Then the transformation to make it all look the same is also done manually. And then storing the data is also a challenge. And then eventually sharing and visualization is done by a tool or by Excel. But actually, if it looks like this, you're quite data informed, and there are a couple of challenges. So there are multiple sources of the truth. We've had it within our own company. If we ask about a client, what's the conversion rate, 2 different numbers pop up. So you need to have one source of the truth. But also the overhead cost, because probably in multiple teams, people are busy on working on data analytics. And there's manual work involved, what can also mean that there are errors made while doing this process. And there's no real possibility to do a drill down. And with that, I tried to say that if you have the whole data set and someone asks what's the conversion rate, you can come up with a number, but actually you want to be able to drill down. So what's the conversion rate in France in this week for this channel? And you all want to do it from one data set and not having to go back to the drawing table, get extra information and then or extra data and then try and work with it. So the real challenge is that you won't be ready to make data-driven decisions. And yeah, Paul and me said like, and also with our data scientist team, we see it happen so often that the focus within a company is really on collecting the data, trying to get the data from the right sources, get the right quality, while as a company, and most of the brands we work with are really more about branding, about their product. They probably don't want to think about gathering the data, making sure the data quality is right. They want to focus on selling the product and marketing the product. So we say, yeah, you should focus on acting on the data and not really on collecting it.
Yes, and this was a starting point for a data journey. But this was a really exciting point for us. So we decided that, thanks. That data is going to be a really important part of Ask Phill, and we want our clients to be data driven. And first we started finding a way, how can we collect data from different data sources and get it to a central data warehouse? And it's been quite a journey. We started this journey more than a year ago with one of our really enthusiastic data nerds, Arthur. I think some of you met him already. And we started first researching different data stacks. So what kind of data warehouse do we need? And how are we going to transfer the data from all the different data sources that Martijn just described and send it to the data warehouse? And that was straight away the biggest challenge. So we wanted to send the data through third-party tools. So we tried Fivetran, Stitch, Hevo, and we found out that this transferring of data, or ETL or ELT, how you want to call it, had some flaws with third-party data tools. So sometimes the limitations were that there weren't enough data sources available that we wanted to use, and sometimes the problem was that the costs were really high, and that was not part of our vision of the really low-cost data stack. So then we decided, after consulting some partners of ours, that it was time to build our own data pipeline, the Ask Phill pipeline. And when we managed to build this pipeline and transfer data from all the different sources towards our single source of truth, our data warehouse, we were able to build dashboards on top of that and really create a single source of truth for our clients from multiple departments in the company. And then finally, we started experimenting with the data and doing some data science experiments. And that's where we are today. And that's the present. But before I want to go to the present, I would really like to emphasize that to get to the point where we are today, we spent more than a year of researching and development with a lot of people to get to this modern data stack. And this is how our modern data stack looks like today. So on the left, you still see all the different sources that Martijn just described. And then you see the Ask Phill pipeline. So the Ask Phill pipeline streams the data from all the different sources to our data warehouse, Snowflake. And we get the question a lot why we work with Snowflake. And that was when we did the research to the tech stack, there were three main requirements for that. The first one was because Shopify is one of the most important backbones for our clients, the data warehouse needed to be able to work with JSON file format. And Snowflake is really good with that. The second one was because we work for our clients, it's really important that we can share the data warehouse in a secure way with them. And the third one was that we wanted to be able to extend the data. So for example, now we only have the data of the client in the data warehouse, but for example, in the future, we would like to add the data of the weather or the average income. So that was the reason to choose for Snowflake. And when the data from all these data sources is in the data warehouse, we can tap into that and make cool dashboards with Tableau. And if you want to do some really funky stuff, we can even add the Google Cloud for machine learning or artificial intelligence. And some of the advantages of this modern data stack is that we create a single source of truth. Next to that, we stream data continuously from the different sources to our data warehouse. Of course, we can control the data quality. And next to that, we are finally able to make ready data-driven decisions. Next to that, every time somebody from the company logs into their dashboard, they see the freshest and newest data of the company. So no manual labor anymore. And that brings us to the most important part of today, the future. So we believe that a modern data stack like we have created is essential in creating a data-driven future. And we will explore some of the examples, what you can do if you have a good data stack and you can do some cool stuff with that.
Yeah, I think with this, we work a lot with clients, so we build a platform, and then when it's live, we try and improve the platform. Usually this is in sprints, bi-weekly sprints. And usually how we decide what the backlog is, it's really about gut feeling, like what do we want to implement, what do we want to add to the platform. But I think what we can do with this way, we can decide on the backlog in a data-driven way. So that's what we're going to show now.
So we will show you a bit how we do this. This was a concept we wanted to do when we started with the data team. And what's really important to know that this is only possible if you track everything on your website. So last year during the D2C conference, we explained that it's really important to track all the events that happen on the website. And we will now show you an example of a really beautiful website from Stocks that we made. And on the left-hand side, you see the what happens on the screen. And on the right-hand side, you see all the events we send to our data warehouse. So through our data pipeline towards the data warehouse. So now we land on the Stocks website, and you instantly see, so when a user scrolls into view, you see that the section is viewed.
So every element of the website is tracked and every interaction. And I think back in the days or even today, people use Hotjar to look at the website, see what's happening, and then make a data-informed decision. But I think here we track everything for every user and every session, and we store it in the data warehouse.
Yes. And what you see, so for example, somebody watched the reviews, clicked a couple of times of loading more reviews, and now he's able to purchase the product. And the cool thing is, with this whole flow, we track more than 25 events. And normally, with an e-commerce platform, you would only track 3, maximum 4. And now with all this data in our data warehouse, we can create the Events Effects dashboard. And I hope everybody can see it, but this is the Events Effects dashboard. And on the left-hand side, you see all the events that we just pushed to the data layer. Next to that, for each event, you see what it adds to the conversion rate. So for example, to take the top one, we see the section viewed products. That will have a positive effect on the conversion rate of 0.27. It can also have a negative effect if it has a negative effect on the conversion rate, of course. And next to the conversion rate effect, you see the percentage of users who sent this event to our data warehouse. And if you combine those two metrics, you get the priority. So for example, a lot of people see this section and it has a positive effect on the conversion rate, then it gets more priority. But when it's negative, for example, it can also get a lot of priority.
So I think in this example, on the top you see product reviews that has the highest influence on conversion rate. A lot of people saw it, and so the priority is the highest. You can make the biggest impact by doing that. Well, if you look at on the bottom, you see it has, for example, section viewed product form as 0.04 impact on the conversion rate, and a low amount of people who actually do it. So it's less interesting to try and optimize that element on the website.
Yeah. So let's zoom in on the top one, so the one with the most priority, and filter this out to all the events that are related to this event. And that's where we get a filtered view of the section viewed product review. And now you can see the first event, so the top one, the section viewed product reviews, has a positive effect on the conversion rate. For example, we want to optimize this section. Then we look at the other interactions on that section. And for example, you see that when you click on load more reviews the first time, it almost doesn't add anything to the conversion rate. So it's a 0.1 and 3.12% of people do it. So the priority is quite low. So we can just keep that event. But the second time we click on the load more button to view even more reviews, it will negatively influence this conversion rate. And the third time we do it, it will even bring the conversion rate lower after that. So the most important learning from this is that after the first reviews loaded, we need to disable the button. Or for example, change with an add to cart or scroll to top button. And with this relatively simple dashboard, of course behind the scenes a lot of things happen, we can make data-driven decisions and send this ticket, for example, to our agency to disable the load more button after one click.
So this is an example of only the review section and what the influence is on people loading extra reviews on a conversion rate. But this can be done on any element of the website. It can be your header, your menu, your footer, anything. So yeah, if we look at the data-driven backlog, the nice thing is that we can create the backlog, so what you want to improve on the platform based on data. And there's no more guessing involved. And I think the goal for us as an agency is to create work or do work that has a positive influence on your ROI.
Yeah, and I think the coolest thing about this is, so now we've really looked only to the conversion rate, but you can also do this for the customer lifetime value, the average order value, returns. So the possibilities are really endless. And I think that brings us to the next slide, that indeed the possibilities are really endless. Yeah, and so we see, so next to the data-driven backlog, I think that's one that's really like, we really like a lot. We see a lot of other possibilities with a modern data stack like this. One of the examples, for example, is the self-serving analytics. We see this popping up a lot in the data world, and it's becoming like a trend. But because we created this, what do you call it? The
one source of truth.
One single source of truth. We can tap into the data from different departments. So, for example, the marketing department can create their own dashboard on top of their data warehouse. And then the e-commerce department can do it as well, but operations can do it also, and the management team can do it. So everybody in the company can create their own dashboard on the single source of truth we created. Next to that, what is really cool, what we already did for some client, is enriching the data. So get all the client information in the data warehouse, and for example, add like data information about income. So get to know your customers and know, okay, what's the average income of my customers and how can I target them even better? And of course, this is one, of course, of the biggest topics, probably the topic of the next D2C Summit, personalization. So we see a lot of possibilities with that when you have all your data centered in one data warehouse. But in the end, if you have a good data stack, the possibilities are really limitless. And the only limitation is your creativity.
And so we as an agency started last year investigating this, doing experimentation, see what the best tech stack is. And to give you an idea of what we do for clients is that we can build the pipeline. So we use the basic of the Ask Phill pipeline. We can do the data warehousing. We do the dashboarding, and we collaborate with your team to come up with experiments and see how can we push the platform further. And I think the key takeaways.
The key takeaways. Here we go.
So, I think the key takeaways is really the most important thing is make sure you have one single source of truth of all your data. Also, make sure you can automate your data pipeline, the extraction and transformation of your data, and gather as much data as you can. Last year, we said it during the previous summit, like just start gathering data because all the data you have, we can look into patterns we can see in the data and get information out of it. And I think it's also needed to get ready to do some more advanced A/B testing.
Yeah, and I think to summarize, we think that data is the foundation for the future of e-commerce. And if
That
you want to
was-
know, yeah, and so if you want to know more, you can make a scan of this QR code. You can make an appointment with one of our data scientists.
Yeah, and I think I assume there are some questions maybe because it's quite technical in some parts.
There's a mic here. Any questions? It was so clear.
Yeah, that's nice. Great. Thanks for your time and thanks for listening. I hope everything was clear. If you have any questions, we'll be out during the break for to answer any open questions.